Yeah. Okay, Mojave Air and Spaceport Meeting, February 15th, call to order. Let's start with Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Bill Devers,
Bill Deaver here.
Chuck Coleman,
Here.
Bob Morgan's here. Todd,
Yes, sir.
okay. Jim Valentine,
Here.
okay, and Scott,
I'm here.
okay. So we've got everyone but Diane present for directors. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second by Coleman. Okay. So the agenda as posted is approved.
You need to take the roll call vote on.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Roll call vote to approve the agenda. Bill?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Aye. And Jim? Aye. Okay. Motion passes to approve the agenda. Community announcements. Okay. Members of the audience, if you have any announcements, feel free to speak up, unmute yourself. We've got 8 people out there.
Hi, everybody. This is Marissa from the Fitness Center. I wanted to just take a few moments here to talk about our new airport employee special. So I've been working closely with Lynn on just getting our tenants and our airport employees more aware of the Fitness Center. Starting effective immediately, any airport employee that joins the Fitness Center will get their first month for $20. And then instead of our normal 3-day trial, they would get it for they would get a 5-day trial to try out the gym. So we just wanted to let everybody know that we are implementing that, like I said, effective immediately. Other than that, we are here to assist with any of your health and fitness needs, and let us know if you have any questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? This is community announcements. Okay. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests to move an item to an action items. So the first item on the consent agenda is minutes of the regular board meeting from February 1st, 2022. And the second item is check register dated February 9th. And we need a roll call for that. Right?
You need a motion. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Second by Coleman. And we'll have any discussion? Nope. And roll call. Bill?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. Morgan? Aye. Mr. Valentine? Aye. Okay, the motion passes. Action items. Presently, we have no action items, so we'll move on to reports. CEO, General Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. I was alerted about the middle of last week that we'd be receiving a visit from a lot of the federal security organizations. One of the things that there's not currently in place for commercial space in particular is a set of regulations that dictate your security levels and what needs to be done to confirm that you are providing an adequate level of security. So May 9th, we'll have, thanks, sir, FAA commercial space, FAA airports, FAA air traffic, Secret Service and FBI will be here on site you'll probably see a lot of black cars rolling around. There are going to be a lot of folks that will be interviewed with Mojave Air and Spaceport as well as our tenants. After that review, we'll receive a report and recommendations and things of that nature. But among other things, the most important part of this is the fact that Mojave Air and Spaceport is is the facility that's setting the standard for the development of regulations and policies as we move forward. And this is a good example of that. So I've instructed Floyd to be on his best behavior while they're here. And we look forward to entertaining those folks and working with them to develop a standard for security.
Real quick, regulation and policy for the spaceport industry?
Yeah, for commercial space, the commercial space
I
industry.
thought so. I just didn't hear the two tied together.
Commercial space
So-
industry.
Because it's an on-site visit, is this considered more like an informal audit as opposed to like meeting at a industry level where they kind of create the policy, since you say there is no policy yet?
So what they'll be doing is we're going to be the first facility that they look at that is both a general aviation facility and a commercial space facility.
Okay.
They will leave here and they will go to, I think, Midland, Texas, and look at their facilities. But we will be the baseline for what they develop beyond that.
So we have a lot of opportunity to provide input to our concerns, needs, whatever.
Right, exactly. And a lot of these projects, a lot of the things that, we could have easily said, look, we don't want to do this, we don't want them around, and they wouldn't have been here. It's purely voluntary from that standpoint. The good news is that for those projects or those things that they see that they don't agree with or we should improve or whatever it may be, those will be in a report that will come to us and will be used as a device that we can collect or gather federal funds to address.
Right.
That's the good side of this.
What do you see, if any, changes like security and things like that? Do you think it's going to be like it is now, or do you think they want to propose a lot of changes?
I won't say I think they will propose a lot of changes.
Right.
I do think that they're going to request that we increase security.
And security during space operations or
Security
all the time?
overall.
Okay.
Well, I'm just purely speculating.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see what the experts say.
Right. Because, TSA and no airline activity here and everything, so we want to keep
Well,
that.
and that's one of the dynamics that we deal with is the fact that we're a general aviation facility right here,
Mm-hmm.
and we all want to have the capability to come and go as we please, and
Right.
less security and that type of thing. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the most technical. We're making some of the most technical advancements in the aerospace industry here. So we have both sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I share Chuck's concern because our tenants have their own security obligations to deal with a lot of that. And, like to Chuck's point, the Super Bowl TFR that they just had
Mm-hmm.
was a little over the top, right? So it's easier to compensate in the direction of safety, but it also restricts freedom, commerce, the ability to conduct business and whatnot. You can make it. I mean, there's a reason black programs for the military cost so much is because they can't communicate with their own people, even internally, on projects because they make it so difficult to
Yes,
do
sir.
the job. So by the same token, it can be difficult to do commerce and general aviation and commercial work in an environment that's turning into a military type level facility. So,
Yes, sir.
The rocket site is one thing, the general aviation part of the airport or the commercial aspects, like right now, we're not required to have the tower open all the time. So,
True.
I mean, an F-18 can fly in here on the weekend without even contacting anyone. Now,
Sure.
if someone stole that military jet and flew in, I mean, people could come up with scenarios that justify ridiculous security requirements, saying, "Well, that guy's moving." You know what I'm saying? So, I hope that our position is one of, a tempered approach to security.
I choose not to take a position until I get a report from them saying one or the other. From that
Well, I mean, if
standpoint.
we're looking
I
for
agree
us
with
for
what you're saying.
guidance, we don't want to encourage something that's not necessary, because it's very hard to remove something once you add it when it comes to things like security.
True. At the same time,
And there's a difference between recommended and required. We can make it where it could be,
Right.
this could be hostile to commercial operations.
And right now, the only space activity is Virgin Orbit conducting missions, and that's just, okay, they're at the far end and that, but we don't want it to affect everybody else at the field if
that's
they're
true.
doing it.
But we also have,
Yeah.
you're right about
Yeah.
that, but we also have a lot of ITAR. You guys know we have a lot of
Yeah,
ITAR.
right.
Yeah, and
Right.
ITAR made things almost impossible for the Virgin program.
I don't disagree with you there. But I don't make the rules. I was trying to follow.
Yeah, I understand. This
You know,
is,
I can't sit here and say,
mhm,
if I'm handed a rule or regulation, then I'm not going to follow it.
mhm.
At the same time, I agree with what you're saying, and I think there's got to be a balance there
Right.
that addresses the issues that are trying to be addressed. At the same time, provides the freedom to enjoy aviation.
Would you
Well,
consider
it's not just enjoy it, it's commercial operations.
Right.
So for instance, Virgin Galactic was a commercial program, but they were forced to comply with ITAR rules, and Scaled was unable to even communicate in briefings to their own client what they were doing
Yes, sir.
because of ITAR restrictions, which was ridiculous.
Yes.
Because there was nothing about the program that required it to be classified or anything else. And it was, talking to them became deemed exported.
Right. Yes. Right.
But,
Yes.
but it really wasn't, because, I mean, it's just the rules were so general and could be so broadly interpreted, it made it impossible for them to do business virtually. Like, I can tell you, I got ITAR training. It was a nightmare. And so,
It is a nightmare.
and I've worked on those kinds of programs where,
Yes, sir.
you can't communicate effectively. You can't.
Right.
And so, if we're promoting the general good of the airport as well for we're a commercial flight test center. If they say, "Oh, well, you can't do it unless security's, you can't have takeoffs," and I mean, I'm hypothetical.
Right. Right.
If they said no movements or operations without, this level of the tower has to be open, the security, the this and that, we could incur all kinds of costs
Right.
or restrictions that would, maybe the F-18s won't come here and fuel anymore. Maybe, Scale won't be able to do a flight test on a weekend.
And right now it's 1 hour a month that Virgin Orbit does the mission. And you got the FAA oversight of the airport, now the commercial space part of the oversight. I just kind of envision some cumbersome, we can do it for FAA is good for this, but the spaceport needs this. So I just don't want to create a bureaucracy that takes away the general aviation part of the airport, which it's about, I've flown hundreds of different general aviation fields.
Yes, sir.
This is the most complex security and regulations I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I understand there's black hole projects and everything, but at the same time, if you get another entity coming in, they might impose other rules.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating about what may happen.
I've flown into a general aviation airport that had commercial operations, and I was flying from Canada, and it was in Alaska, and I'm Ketchikan, and I flew in from Canada, so I had to clear customs. I was required to park in a blue box on the ramp and not allowed to leave, and I had to go to the bathroom.
Mhm.
I had to wait an hour and a half because the customs guy wasn't on the island and had to take the ferry over. I mean, how ridiculous is that? I couldn't leave the blue box with my little 4-seat airplane. And when he got there, it wasn't like he searched my plane.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
you can make things just Absolutely.
You don't want to see a competition between commercial space and FAA and they're butting heads. So
Yeah, so my point is,
right.
I'm all for,
Yeah.
reasonable precautions. If you can sequester parts that are space related, like the test sites, we already have separate gating, for instance, out to the rocket test sites.
Like the motor test sites.
Mhm.
Yeah, like just because you have a badge to a GA hangar, for instance, or the one by the tower, doesn't mean you can go down the road around to the
Right.
rocket row. Right? So things like that, we already
Rocket center, it's all rocket motors.
you know what I'm saying.
Someday.
Rocket row, I call it, yeah.
That's,
have-
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, perfect example. I would just like to make sure that we don't encourage them to be overzealous on us, and that to appreciate that there's a balance.
Well, the good thing is they're giving you the opportunity to share your views with them.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's why I'm saying I'm trying to emphasize.
Yeah, definitely.
Spaceship One also was under the Space Act, and people showed up from Washington who required us, because they looked up the rules about environmental impact. We had to walk the length of 30 to look for desert tortoises
tortoises. Mhm.
before we could take off,
Even though
Yes.
a bunch of airplanes were taking off and landing prior to it. So,
because they
okay.
we're a federal agency,
Right.
and they looked up all the federal rules, and they
Right.
showed up and started
Okay.
dictating what we could or couldn't do. And they literally had to do a
Mhm.
turtle walk, the
Yep.
length of 30,
Yes, sir.
before every flight.
And I see some parallels in the commercial space.
That was a commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
All right. No,
Thank you.
I think you got the.
Operation scheduling. So we're also in the process, or we have now established a scheduling protocol. You can go online, go under pilot information. You can select you want to schedule an operation, a special operation around 12:30. That meets FAA's criteria, and they were very happy with that. So it was good to know. Starting the process of developing the capital budget for FY23. That will be coming your way in the not too distant future. GA development, we have received the final drawings for the GA pavement and the GA infrastructure utilities to relocate the utilities that will be needed to be relocated in order to accommodate the new general aviation hangars. Looking forward to that project. It looks like that at this point in time, we're moving forward with the development of the design of the general aviation hangars in the general aviation area, working with a couple of different companies on that. And I'll be glad to show you that design once that's complete, or some when we get to the conceptual part of it, so you all can weigh in and tell us what you'd like changed, and we will move forward on that. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed back in the October-November timeframe. It contained $25 billion that was set aside for the development of aviation infrastructure to be spent over the next 5 years. We're going to be pursuing those funds hot and heavy. In order to do that, they're going to be looking for projects that are shovel ready. So we are making sure that we've had some projects in particular that are purely infrastructure projects that are on the shelf ready to be move forward with the construction, so we'll be prepared for those dollars. We're also working with a company right now to develop some warehouse activity on site. Excuse me. It's a whole development to be an industrial portion of the airfield. I can't speak a lot about it at this point in time, but there'll be a lot more to follow. And if you hear something on the street about warehouses at the airport, you'll know what they're talking about. We're moving forward with the interviews for the Director of Operations position. We have the in-face interviews tomorrow. We're doing, I think, 3 or 4 tomorrow. Looking forward to having a new Director of Operations. Car chargers outside here, we're making some improvements to those chargers. Those chargers, and this obviously occurred before I was here, we did those with a grant, EV grant, and evidently the power going to those is not it's not significant enough, and we're trying to make some improvements to those chargers that will allow the cars to be charged at a little bit quicker rate than what they're currently being charged. Aerospace letter of agreement, we received the final letters of agreement for the new approaches here at Mojave. I've signed off on it. Josh has signed off on it. The folks from Joshua has signed off on it. Edwards. There was only one person left to sign off on it when it came to me, so I'm hoping that has been addressed at this point, and we can get those published and start using them. The ball field is starting to be used again. Floyd and his crew's been making a lot of improvements down there. The latest thing they've been doing is adding the next layer of clay to the infield, getting it ready for play. Current Station 14, folks at the fire station have been coming over. We've been doing a lot of training with them. I think they've been over twice in the last 2 weeks, and we're planning on additional training activities moving into the not too distant future. Property that has been rented, or facilities been rented, Craft Aero, they have leased Hangar 909 and 924. They're on a month-to-month lease. For an access license, Wind Turbine and Energy, it's taking a quarter acre of the West Laydown area. That'll be good from February 7th to May 31st. And the field is being used by the Mojave High School girls softball team. That's all I have. Glad to answer any other questions you may have.
Question, the Craft Aero,
Yes, sir.
is it public what they do? Is it a company then?
It is a company.
Okay.
They're building a flying car.
Okay. Impressive. Nice.
Whether it's public or not, it is now.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No, they have a website. They have talked. I mean, they have been very open with what they're doing. It's a very cool concept.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, report board committee. That's us, Chad.
Yeah. We've had meetings about.
We had a meeting.
Yeah.
We met. Chuck Coleman and I both met, as well as with Dan Craig. We threw around some ideas on some possibilities of logos. I think it was agreed we like the logo we have.
Right.
And we also discussed things like ways we could slow roll it in there. You know, for instance, I don't know that every single hangar building that has a small 8x10 sign
Like
needs to be
this.
updated, for
Yeah.
instance. Okay.
Yeah.
So in vehicles, for instance, you could do something like you could have Rattan Airfield on the left door and Mojave Air and Spaceport on the right door, for instance, as a, not necessarily like have to redo everything and add another sentence. And in some places it'd be appropriate for, adding, like another line that says at,
Right.
as the name is officially going to be listed. I think we're going to meet again and come up with some more concrete stuff, but we identified probably the areas that need addressing. There's a legal name, and so that's kind of the general list we're working on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we kind of tasked Dan with some creative stuff and some design and come up with.
Something kind of simple as like a little scripto at the bottom of that logo that says at Rattan Field. Some, block letters are fine and all that, but add some little art into the thing, which Dan Craig, if you don't know his background,
No, I don't know him.
well, he's scale composites and he's did a lot of art for planes
Okay.
and that.
Yeah.
Did
He's
most
working
of
at
the
Strail
ones
Launcher now.
there,
So in the Air and Space Museum, here's a spaceship with the stars and the blue and stuff on that. That's Dano's stuff, and he did the scale logo and everything. So he's the guy that.
He's done
Yeah,
every.
right.
He's done the graphics on every like Christmas stationery / coffee mug that was given away at the Christmas parties.
Cool.
And there's a lot of clever,
Right.
Yeah.
Spaceship One is a sleigh, with Bert as Santa, and et cetera.
Yeah.
Rockets
Right,
for the reindeer, that kind of. So just something to stimulate
Right.
some stuff. Thoughts like this building has signage both facing the flight line, facing the street. Same idea as the cars. You know, you could say Britannia Field on one and leave the Mojave Air and Spaceport on the other.
Right.
And other places you got to merge them. You know,
Right.
but it's one of those things where you just like having a nickname.
Right.
You're not always going to have. We don't have to. No one's going to use the
Don't.
full blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
You don't start over and rip all the signs down and start over. You're
Well, we're getting ready to
transitioning.
redo
Yeah.
our entry signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that, that'd be a place where we'll start that.
Okay.
I can see that being one natural place.
And we like the ampersand versus the and there. Is that what they call it?
Ampersand.
Ampersand is kind of our pick on that. The
Okay.
and kind of confuses
It's right there.
aerospace. Oh.
Apparently, we use both.
Oh yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's
On
good. Nice,
podium.
nice catch there.
That's where?
On the
On
hangars.
the podium,
The
So it says
and, air
Mojave Air
and
and
space.
Space.
Oh, yes.
it has the
I thought you were
ampersand.
pointing
Here it
right.
has an and.
Yeah. And
Just a minor thing that kind of. Yeah.
I have a comment and a suggestion.
Sure.
My understanding, I guess I'm wrong, was you were test with graphics as far as how it's to be written, how the graphics of it.
Right.
Let staff handle the implementation of it. It's typically how you do this. You come
We're,
up with.
we're only making recommendations.
Mhm.
No, I understand, but if we're getting a little detailed and you're going to get into micromanaging.
Not
From my
I
experience,
I
Thank you for your
disagree.
suggestion, but I think when
Yeah.
we started
Okay,
thinking.
okay,
Here,
I
Let me,
think
let me
point
give you
made.
the rationale.
Okay.
The reason we started discussing this is when you're talking about logo, you have to set some ground rules. Where is this logo implemented? What's the purpose of the logo? Is it being used on buildings? Is it being used as a marketing thing? Are we trying to create brand identity? So once you establish what those things are, then you can focus on, do we need to do that? We're not, and I'm not even sure we're going to necessarily dictate the logo either. I think we're just going to make some recommendations on
Mhm.
implementation and graphics. I don't know that our mandate was just to work on logos.
Oh, that's what I understand. I've just been down that path before with some stuff, and it gets cluttered because as this administration moves on, that
Yeah.
change is going to be permanent.
No, I get
How
that.
it's implemented, whether it's on our web page or in an advertising or on the side of a vehicle, I think should be management and staff's job.
We're
We're
not.
just making recommendations.
Recommendations.
Okay,
Where this needs-
I was hearing a little more than that, but okay.
Um,
I'm okay.
No,
How
it was
much,
a
how
list.
much did this logo cost right here? Somebody knows how much that cost, right? I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars in that.
I think we scored. It's
Okay.
world renowned. Anybody sees that
And
Mojave and Chevron knows who it is.
we're suggesting these things at no cost to the airport, so.
Well, that doesn't make it better or worse.
No, I'm just saying, but to argue and say we're micromanaging and things like
No,
that.
no, the
That's-
implementation I'm talking
no,
about. Put it on
you're-
this
you're-
side of the vehicle, not
you-
on that
you
side of
don't-
the vehicle, put it on this side.
You don't
Let
understand
staff
the
do it.
intentions that we're not
Oh,
in
I understand.
micromanaging. We're
I'm
making
pretty familiar with
suggestions,
marketing.
and Todd and the staff will say, that's a good idea, or
Okay,
how about we do it
that's
this
not what I
way?
was hearing.
That's, you misinterpreted.
Yeah, a slight suggestion.
Yeah.
Fine, we've got a wonderful logo to begin with, and if we just put the words at Rutan Field under Air and Spaceport in the same typeface and the same size, boom, that's it. Simple. It'll be a great logo.
So we just talked about.
Well, I appreciate the ampersand. Personally, just personal preference, I prefer the ampersand too. But gentlemen, if you'd like to come by anytime, you're more than welcome to stop at the office and we'll look at this.
Okay.
Come one, come all. Anything else?
Nothing else on the board committee. So next item on reports is board of directors. This is reserved for board members to come on items not on the agenda. Be quiet.
I have no comments.
Phil? Any comments? Bill, do you have any comments?
No, if I did have some, you'd have heard it by now.
All right. So we can move on to public comments on items not on the agenda. So feel free to unmute yourself and speak up. Okay. So next item is closed session. So those of you that have called in, you can go into the waiting room and stand by and rejoin us after the closed session for the report and the remainder of the meeting.
Then